Oh, community.
Community.
Community is...
What's it mean to have
I
community?
don't even know. Community is such a hard word now.
It needs to be a place where people don't have to wear a mask, don't have to pretend. There's a place where you experience life with one another and know you're accepted.
Man, it is hard to define, isn't it?
We need community.
If you're not known, you cannot be loved.
But we're definitely coming at this from different places.
I'm Daniel Powell, and welcome to the Grounded Presence Podcast, where we're exploring a deeply rooted existence. Well, joining me today is my buddy Blake Ross. And Blake and I have tasked ourselves with a few social experiments, just in an effort to challenge ourselves and see if we can't deepen the sense of community in our own lives, as well as the sense of community in the world around us. So, we've made a few tweaks to our daily life in an attempt to foster more community. And let me tell you, we had a blast doing this. And speaking from my experiences, I got some really pretty profound insights from doing this. We got a lot to cover, so we'll get right into it. Here's me and Blake Ross talking about our first set of social experiments. And yes, I say first because I hope that there will be at least a few more of these. Enjoy. So last time we talked, you and me put ourselves up to a couple of social challenges, social experiments that we were going to employ in our daily lives. And just in an effort to connect better with our worlds and with the people that surround us.
Yeah.
What I was going to do is I decided I was going to make an initiative to give people a friendly wave more frequently, just as I'm walking down the street or at a park or something. And you've recently moved into a new neighborhood, and you said that you've been putting off meeting your neighbors. So your challenge was to meet your neighbors.
Yep.
And if I recall correctly, even bringing them a plate of cookies or some sort of friendly gesture like that.
Yeah, bringing gifts.
So before we get into talking about the outcomes of these two experiments, I'm really excited to talk about mine because it was, man, I just had all sorts of experiences. But I got to give this some context here because we had our initial conversations like the first or second week of March.
Yep.
And then the very next weekend was when all this COVID-19 stuff started hitting
the
news
very next
really
weekend.
And I mean, man, talk about some weird timing to start running some social experiments, or maybe appropriate
Well, that's what I
timing,
thought
but
was so funny that you had sent me. You're like, what a weird time to be trying to shake your neighbor's hands or saying hey to...
Yeah, I texted you that a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, man, it's a strange time to try to be drawing close to people when everybody's saying, hey, stay 6 feet away if you have to be around people, and better yet, stay home.
Yeah, don't go out. You're doing your duty by staying in your house, watching Netflix. Be a hero, watch Netflix, sit on your couch.
I don't know about you, but this time period right now, I've never seen this small town that I'm living in like so alive, like so many people out and about. This little place we walk along the river, there's never anybody there. But we hear that everybody hears that school's going to be canceled on Monday, and that place had so many people at it on Sunday. I was like, whoa, there are people that live in this town. You know, like everybody doesn't just hide in their houses. It's weird. that same theme is just carried on throughout the past week or so, 2 weeks probably. I've seen more people out in their yard doing work, and just more people just kind of like out and doing the mundane, like daily life things because they're around their house, and people just go out to take a walk more often. So it's interesting.
Yeah. You know, we've talked about how people are too busy to be human. For me, like, I mean, I'm still working, but part of me is like, you know, I wouldn't be too upset if I didn't have to work for like 2 weeks. because then I would be able to like maybe fully unpack all of my stuff in my new house. I'd be able to do all these chores that, I mean, it's not like I'm a slave to by any stretch of the imagination, but it is my responsibility, and it actually, I want my house to look good and feel good. So I like that, but I've been seeing that with my neighbors as well. More people out and about, I've seen people, walking their dog, people have been doing a pretty good job distancing themselves in my neighborhood. But yeah, but we started our social experiments at a literal week before a world pandemic.
We started our social experiments the week before there is a world movement towards social distancing. Now that's nutty.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about meeting your neighbors. How did that go?
It went well. It actually happened the very next day. So I think you and I talked on a Saturday, and then the next day, Sunday, it was a nice day. My neighbor was just out in her yard and with her dog, and then I was out in my yard with my dog, and then we ended up talking for like an hour and a half in our yard. Yeah, and then check this out. So come to find out, her husband is on the HOA. Well, the very next day was an HOA meeting, and I also became part of the HOA. Like, I'm a board member.
Very cool. Well, so that's even more social connection from just like taking that one little step.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and I thought it was strange too, because it was literally my very first HOA meeting ever, and come to find out, the board members served for 2 years, and the guy whose house that I bought from, he was one of the board members, and I had been telling my fiance, like, I'd love to be on the HOA. I just didn't think I would have an opportunity, and literally, I go to my very first meeting, and they're like, we need someone. I was like, well, I'm kind of interested. They're like, you're on. I'm like, oh, okay. It's all right. I guess I'm on.
All right, man. Well, I've heard some crazy stories about the HOA vibe. Is there any crazy energy in your HOA, or does it seem pretty chill?
I mean, on that day, they seemed pretty chill. Okay. They seem to have like a pretty good handle on things. And really, my idea is like, because my whole idea on being on the HOA is if I don't like a rule, then I want to change the rule. And the way you change the rule is by being on the board. So there's what I plan on doing is I want to, because we have neighborhood events apparently, come to find out. And so I'm going to meet more of my neighbors, and I'm going to be like, hey, I'm actually on the board. What are some of the things that you like about the things we're doing? What are some of the things you don't like? And get a good idea for what I guess my now constituents want. But yeah, I'm really excited because one of the things I would like to change potentially, down the road, I don't want to rock the boat just yet, right? But I think it's crazy that we're only allowed to have a couple colors on the house. It's like, I am okay if anyone paints their house, whatever, but if someone gives me a good reason for that, then it's like, all right, whatever. But I can change the rules. That's the main thing.
I don't know, man. That's like standard HOA stuff. I feel.
Yeah, that's lame. That's lame. We don't have to be standard.
You're messing with the foundation, messing with the framework.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Because the main thing is just like, look, all right, like we'll get to the root of what an HOA actually does. And it's not like just keeping everyone in the same beige colored houses. It's like, look, this is what you do. We don't care about houses. Are we going to start enforcing how people dress or what kind of cars they drive? No. All right. Then they can paint their houses, whatever.
All right.
I'm a radical.
So you met the one neighbor. You've been to one meeting. So you've met some other people in the neighborhood. Do you have other neighbors besides the one lady?
I do. And so I met, what was his name? Frank. He's my neighbor to the east. He's my eastern neighbor, my easternly neighbor. Yeah. He seems kind of shy or a little bit more introverted, even more than, well, I guess like I am. I'm technically an introvert, but he seems to be very much to himself. And actually he has a wife too. I just found that out the other day because they both walked out into the backyard for a second. And I'm like, oh, huh, cool. So I guess it could be girlfriend too, but yeah, no, I've definitely, I just tried to hit the ground running. Cause I was off, like I said, the very next 2 days after our podcast. So, I just was like, all right, here's an opportunity to talk to this neighbor. She's literally out in her backyard, and so am I. My dog wants to play. Her dog apparently likes my dog a lot. Boom, strike up a conversation. Then go to the HOA meeting. Boom, strike up a few more conversations with some of my other neighbors. Yeah, and then COVID. So
Yeah.
But you know what's cool though is my one neighbor. So she is the first one that I met the very next day. She's my age, like she's our age. Like the couple, her and her husband, are 30 and 27, and that's the same age that I am and my fiance is as well. And she was saying, she's like, hey, we have a lot of supplies. If you guys need anything, like if you need, we have toilet, like she was just saying like, if you need flour or if you need toilet paper. And I'm like, wow, you really are trying, like you're doing a great job of being a good neighbor. Like, thanks for modeling being a good neighbor to me. Cause that's something that I want to do, but I don't quite know how to do it.
That's really cool, man. Just like getting the better side of people, Yeah, we just don't expect people to be good. Let me rephrase that. I don't expect people to be good that often, but I'm often surprised at how good people can be. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
That's really cool.
It's the idea of like, you've probably seen some of the videos of people hoarding stuff and buying way more items of something than are necessary. But then on the flip side of that, like there are a bunch of positive stories too, just like stores making times for only like elderly people, which I thought that was just like a really nice thing.
That's really cool.
Or how like a lot of the delivery services are delivering things for free because it helps keep some of the restaurants open, while also, limiting, spreading, because there's fewer people involved in the process. And those are tiny little things, but there's like a lot of those little things
and just
happening
like,
right now.
Breweries, distilleries, making hand sanitizer.
That's what I think is so cool, because like for every asshat there is who bought all the toilet paper in a place, or, bought all of the bread or whatever, there's 5 other people who are, saying, I don't know if you saw this, but there's these guys in like a major city. I can't remember if it's LA or New York City, who said, hey, if you're old, we will get you what you need. If you need medications, we will go to the pharmacy and pick it up for you. If you need food items, we will go get whatever you need. Older people, call us, because that's something that part of the population is struggling pretty mightily, because it's like, if I were old, I would be terrified to go out, right?
Yeah.
It's like, dude, if I go out, I will definitely catch this. And so the fear, like that fear for old people, and then the fact that those guys are saying, you know what, hey, like, and I don't think they're like really charging those people. I don't think they're charging people anything. I think they're just doing it because they're saying like, hey, like, we see that you need this. So, but again, like, I tend to think of it the other way, the opposite of the way that you think of it, is like, I think that most people are good, and then I'm not surprised when people do bad, but I'm not surprised when people do good, because I think people are good.
Now, I think that most people are good, like in my head, but my core temperature, like down in my body, it's one more in fear. We're like,
I feel you.
I believe that people are good, but there's that fear that people are going to screw me, which I'm working on. It's not a good one to have. That's not the world I want to live in,
but you've been screwed over before, so that's kind of the hard part, because your brain is like, here's all this evidence, people will screw you over.
Right.
And it's like, you're not wrong.
You always hold on to the negative more than you do the good,
Yeah. But so what about your side of it? So did you get a chance in your walks?
Dude, I got some intense stories for you. I got 3 stories. I got 1 intense stories and 2 like fun, cute stories. So yeah, it was great. It was way better than I expected it to be, because I just expected it to be, because we had talked before, and what I had said to you then was just that, I wanted to take more ownership in my social interactions, and I just realized in myself that I tend to be this person who wants social interaction, but I kind of shy away from it because I'm expecting other people to do it, where I'm like, well, I really wish people in my neighborhood were friendly, but nobody's waving at me. You know what I mean? And so I'm kind of like ready for a wave. Like I'm on alert when I'm walking past people, but I'm never the first one to wave. So I'm just like, so I just realized that's a problem, and I need to take more initiative. So, but it was great, and I got so much more than I bargained for. So the first two experiences happened in the same walk that I took with my daughter. So she's 3, and she's riding her little like scooter bike, or not scooter, but like a cruiser bike. It's one of those without pedals.
Yeah, the
super
scoots.
Small, super cute. It's like a glider. I don't remember what they call them. There's a special name for them. But you just push it with your feet, and she's super cute on it. But we rode down this road that we don't normally walk down in the neighborhood. And at one point we went by this couple who were putting kids in their car. And, I'm in this zone, so I intentionally looked over, tried to kind of make eye contact and just kind of waved, Wasn't really bargaining for anything more than that. But what happened is when Sierra saw me interacting with the parents, she looked over. And when she looked over, one of the daughters that was in the stroller was her age, and she was like, "Hi, Sierra." Huh. So it was like, what? Like, how do you know my daughter's name?
Whoa,
and I guess
cool.
What happened is, so I started chatting with the parents a little bit, and they're in the same class at daycare together. So, just like taking this little step in my world to wave more intentionally, it connected me immediately with other parents who have a kid that my daughter already enjoys playing with. So that was super cool and unexpected.
Well, what you modeled for your daughter too, because you modeled what being a nice person in a neighborhood looks like, because she saw what you did and looked over, so that was super cool.
Then the next one after that, it was pretty simple, but just something I wouldn't have normally done, right? Mm-hmm. So a guy was just standing out on his patio. It's a patio that kind of wraps around the back of his house. It's a little bit obstructed by trees, so it's not the best line of sight. But since I'm doing this thing, I'm being this person who's going to wave more often. I thought he might see me, so I just, waved at him, and he waved back. I was like, whoa, and it was just a really cool experience. It's like, oh, whoa, like I have, I'm so confident in social situations. It just gave me like this really cool ego boost or this boost of self-esteem to be able to be the one that waves more frequently. And that's really all I thought I was going to get out of this little experiment. So it was fun.
How cool too. Like, I'm glad that you met like normal people and not like a crazy ass, because some people would like look up and scowl at you, and that would have just punished that behavior of yours. Like, I'm not gonna wave at people ever again.
Right,
Screw that. I tried, and they make faces at me. But I'm glad that your experiences of that were great. And then also too, like one of the ideas that I have on like why I initiate social interactions a lot of the times when I'm going to be in a social interaction is because a few reasons, as silly as it sounds, but the first one is that you can get out of the situation more what it is that you want. So I like when things are interesting. So if you let me dictate a conversation, then I might ask you some questions that I find that I find interesting, and because I'm the one directing it, you're more likely to engage with that, versus like if I let someone else direct it, they might just be like, "How are you doing today? Good. How are you doing? Good. how's the weather? And, just like something like that. And that's not a conversation that I want to be in. So, one of my motivations as someone who is like, I naturally am introverted, like I've developed these skills, but my motivation for it is that I have better interactions when I initiate the interactions. So like what you did,
Yeah, because you can model to people
Yes.
what you want, and they can meet you at that level. It's not this weird, ambiguous, like, what does this person want? Like, it looks like this person wants to talk about the weather. I don't want to talk about the weather. I don't want to talk about the weather. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, I think most people me definitely, tend to deal with what they're given, which exactly, like modeled by the waving. I deal with what I'm given instead of taking that step.
Well, I mean, I know how good it feels when, you have someone who, like a really extroverted person who comes and they're really interested in you and they're asking great questions and pulling things out of you. And then when they leave, you're like, man, that was awesome. That person was great to talk to be around.
Oh, and it's so common, like in a social situation, when somebody knows what to do. It's like, oh, okay, so somebody knows what to do. It's like, okay, they got this, and I'm just along for the ride. It's fun. If somebody knows how to do it well, it's fun.
I tend to be more of like a circus director when I take people along for my rides than someone who's like, you definitely know exactly what you're doing. It's like, no, but I'm good at dancing and regaining my balance. How about that?
So my last experience is way different than the other two. And it was just like realizing that this hand waving thing, it's another tool in the bag. We're talking about COVID and all this stuff. It's another tool in the bag of social interaction. I'm somebody who really values like verbal interaction with depth,
Likewise, yeah.
And so normally that's just what I stick to, so I don't pay as much attention to waving and all these other things. But so here's what happened. So it was the weekend that all this COVID stuff hit. And I was talking about my experience hanging out by the river and seeing all these families when they heard, school was going to be canceled the next day. Everybody just came out, right? And I was in a really rough spot when I went out with my family and just walked up and down the river that day because what had happened is, one, I had done my taxes.
Oh, no.
Oh, man. Yeah, it just cleaned my clock. It was a rough year of taxes, just like moves and like lots of jobs, lots of contract work. It was just like, a mess, So I had just like used all my energy. And then I start hearing about this COVID stuff popping up, and because I think that's probably the first time that I really heard about it hitting the States more, with force. As my wife comes to me and she's like, school's canceled. I'm like, what? And, it was just like a total gut punch and knocked the wind out of me. And, and just some other family stressors. It's just like my body couldn't take it, right? So what happens when I get overly stressed, kind of past the point that I can handle is I just shut down. I'm somebody who loves talking, but there's some switch that just occasionally, maybe once every 6 months or so, just gets flipped in my head. And it's just like the verbal center just gets shut off. And like, I just can't talk. So that's where I was, is I just couldn't talk, but I could still function. And like, it's weird when I get into these zones. Like, I don't know if anybody understands this, but I can still write. Like, I can process thoughts really well, but it's just like there's no speaking. Just that's what my body does sometimes, and it's strange. But that's where I was when I was walking along the river with my family. I was enjoying being outside. Love like chasing my daughter around on her little bike and all that. Yeah, it was just a good time, but kind of having to non-verbally communicate because of where I was at.
Yeah.
And realizing after some of these other interactions with waving that like I have this other tool in my bag to deal with strangers that are passing by. Even though I can't speak, right, I'm still able to look at them and smile and give them a friendly wave. You know? Because normally what I would do is I'd just be like, hey, hi. And, like the conversation's not going to go anywhere. It's just kind of doing a social obligation. You know what I mean? Because I don't do well with small talk, so I don't really put any stock into that. But when I shift the interaction, and it's like looking at somebody and smiling and waving, it's like, man, there's just so much more meat in that for me. I feel like I could much more easily brighten somebody's day with that than through like saying hello. So,
I mean, yeah, you're recognizing someone's being when you do that. One of the things that I do, one of my practices that I do when I encounter homeless people is I don't always have cash on me, but I always look them in the eye and smile at them. And I've had this one guy before. He was at, he asked me for money. He's like, I don't have that. I don't have money for you. But I was like looking him in the eye, talking with him as a person, and I was like, I don't have anything for you, man. But good luck. Have a good night. And he was like, can I give you a hug? Like he just started crying, and he was like, thank you for just treating me like a person.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, like that's all I did was just actually just look in your face. Like I just acknowledged you. Like I just actually gave you attention for a second. Like if that's all that takes, like that's so powerful, and I guess just not everyone realizes that, how powerful that is and can be for just anyone. So I'm glad that you did that.
Yeah, man, there's just interactions that just carry so much affirmation. Like, there's been a handful of experiences that I can recall where somebody just like touches me on the shoulder or something, Yeah. And it's just like loaded with so much affirmation. And it's not somebody I know that well, But there's just like, I don't get into like woo or energy or stuff like that, but it's just like there's something that's being communicated, something that's being deeply communicated between two people sometimes, in like a really intentional touch, and it can blow me away. Even the simplest thing. Yeah, I mean, we just don't touch people often either. I'm not comfortable with touching people.
Well, that definitely makes you more sensitive to it.
When somebody knows how to do it and they're confident in it, it's just like, ooh.
Dude, my mom actually is someone who's very, very good with touch. Like I've seen her go up to just, complete strangers. Literally, we'll be walking in a store. This has happened so many times in my life. Seriously. We'll just be walking in a store and we'll be talking, and then she'll like see someone and she'll just like break off from the conversation, and she'll go up to this person and she'll be like, hi, I don't know you, but can I touch you? You seem like, and she'll like, I've seen her go to people, and her first thing she says is, is it okay if I give you a hug? You look like you need a hug. Like my mom is nuts like that in the best possible way, but I've seen her just use, she's a nurse. So she's worked with human beings for, like she's 50 now. So for like 30 years now, and she uses that, to like break down people's barriers. And I've seen her do it with like actual gangsters before in Atlanta. Like it was just very, very cool. And she was like, can I touch your arm? You have really cool tattoos. And the guy just like softened up and started talking to my mom about his tattoos and what they all meant. And he was like really happy. And I'm like, dude, this guy was like a gangbanger a second ago, and now he's like this kid who's showing off his tattoos. I was like, what a cool thing that my mom just did by just going up and saying, hey, you have cool tattoos. Do you mind if I touch them? You know?
I feel like that's a really cool that's a really cool profession to be able to like perfect that talent, of touch. Like you said she was a nurse, right?
Yeah.
Man, what a great place to figure that out or realize the power that you have with touch. Cause that'd be so easy. You know what I mean? Somebody's just like laying there in a bed, just to give them a little touch on the shoulder, Yeah. So
yeah,
I'm a little disappointed and a little relieved that all this COVID stuff's going on, because you saying that, I know that would have to be my next challenge. if all this social distancing stuff wasn't going on. And part of me is just like, oh man, like, oh, that's too big for me right now. Like I don't know how I would go about that. So
no, I wouldn't do that to you. I wouldn't do that to you, man.
Self-imposed, man. Self-imposed. This is what I would put on myself, because I would love to be somebody who's able to meaningfully touch people in a more communicative way. But
honestly, though, the way I think about it, because I'm trying to be a psychologist, and one of the things, I mean, even just now, I do behavior, is that you break some things down into the smallest bit that it can be. So like you making eye contact and waving at your neighbors. And then, coincidentally, one of the side effects of that was you met one of the parents to whom your daughter is in the same daycare class with. And, that made your community that much tighter, right? By knowing another part of your community. But like that, I think just like the next like step above that, because touch is like, that's a really tough one, man. But like shaking someone's hand, maybe if that's the type of touch, but like doing like a shoulder touch. Because I've actually been experimenting with this.
I think that's like a good entry point. You're saying like shaking somebody's hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there are more affirming ways to shake somebody's hands than others. Like somebody can just kind of shake your hand. Obviously there's like the limp fish, there's like strong and dominant, or there's like the respectful handshake. Okay, I got a great challenge. Here we go. My challenge, if we were shaking hands and standing closer than 6 feet to people, it would be to shake somebody's hand and with my other hand give them a squeeze on the shoulder.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like
that's
I feel like I could do that more naturally. Because the movement's already been started. That's half the battle. You know what I mean? You just got to add a little extra into it, It's not like, how do I start this? I'm going to be awkward. Like, it's already happening. Just, yeah. Hey.
that's a really good, that's a great idea, dude. That's a great idea. Whenever we're allowed to to touch people again. Oh, goodness.
Okay. So I've got 2 experiments that I'm going to suggest for myself. One as a contingency and one as the one I really want to do. The one I really want to do is I really want to make older people feel appreciated and respected, especially at this moment. So I'm just going to try to, if I see people out, right? Like if I go out to grocery stores, which I shouldn't be, or whatever. But if I'm just out and I incidentally see an older person, I'm going to intentionally, give them more space. You know what I mean? Intentionally, like, maintain that 6 feet from them. Just very respectfully. Yeah, do that and maybe just try to be a little more cognizant of the way I interact. That's going to be what I'm shooting for. But if I don't have any interactions like that, which I hope I don't, because I hope everybody that's at risk is staying home and getting people to do their grocery shopping for them, etc. If I can't do that, I'm going to try to funnel my communications in a more healthy way. And what I mean by that is I've noticed my tendency to just, I sit down, look on social media first thing, And then something about that just burns me out to where I don't want to text anybody back. I don't want to make any phone calls. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to prioritize, or what I am going to do is over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to prioritize my communications by value that I think they hold. I think telephone calls are the paramount style of, distant communication. So if I get a phone call, I'm going to work to return those first. Beneath that, or after that's done, then I'll return texts. And after that's done, then I'll, kind of throw email and social media all on the same level. So those will be my lowest priority. So
Nice.
that's my realistic one. The other one's a stretch. What do you got? What's your challenge?
Well,
I just
my
blabbed a ton.
coronavirus challenge. Well, I mean, it's not really a challenge, but one of the things, because I was riding my bike around, just because no one's out. But one of the things I want to do in the future is I want to be known in my neighborhood as, if you see me riding my bicycle, you're like, hey, that's the guy who smiles. Like, that's the smiley guy. Because, I was just riding my bike around and just smiling, and I was just, singing, having a good time. And, that's something, that's a good thing to be known around the neighborhood for. Anytime someone sees you, you're smiling, which is not saying, I have to be happy, but I tend to smile at people when I see them. But no, for my indoor, I guess my indoor challenge, I mean, honestly, I kind of want to piggyback off of your idea, because I actually really struggle with maintaining communication with people who I don't see. Here's a good example. I do talk with my mom, but I talk with her, if it's a good 6-month period, maybe 6 times, once a month. And a lot of the time she's the one who's calling me. I never initiate those I shouldn't say never. I very, very rarely initiate those sort of phone calls to people. So I actually think maybe a challenge for me would be because as soon as you said that, I just instantly started thinking of a few people where I was like, you know what? I haven't talked to that person in a few years, actually. I'm just going to call them and see what's up. Just, say, hey, hope life's doing well. How you been? And just, let people know that I'm thinking about them. So I think that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to call family first, because my grandparents, I need to call them. I have not actually called them since this COVID stuff has started happening. And then behind that, actually call my friends, because actually I think you I talk to on the phone more than I talk to any other of my friends. And so it's what better time to call other people, because I can't see them. Mm-hmm. Why not call them in this particular time? So I think I'm going to do that.
There's just some magic on a phone call that you don't get on a text.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's some affirmation that you can get on a phone call that you don't get over a text.
Yeah. Well, and it honestly is nice to hear people's voice sometimes. Yeah. I realized that I hadn't seen, when I first moved to Colorado, I hadn't seen my family for 2 years. And then when I saw them, I was like, man, it's actually really nice to just hear your voice in person and to just see you guys in person. But yeah, just over the phone. Because like I said, I haven't talked to some of my friends. I will occasionally shoot them a text, hey, thinking about you. Hope you're doing well. But I haven't talked to some of them in, years,
So, I think I kind of had a huge. My first pitch was huge and convoluted, but I think we can boil this down pretty simply here.
All right.
Prioritize phone calls is the preferred method of
Yes.
communication. Make more phone calls over the next week or so, and honor our elders and those that are older than us, especially in this time of COVID. It's probably pretty scary. And
because I mean, yeah, like we had said earlier, like I couldn't imagine being an old person now and going out into public right now. Like it would be terrifying. Or even, what about this? Even having your grandkids come over, you know?
yeah,
But yeah, honoring. I mean, if I were around old people, like I'm just not around old people at all. I'm just around kids mostly. But if I'm gonna take that as well. If I go out in public and I see someone, which I'm limiting my public time, but if I do and I see that, then I will also honor my elders by giving them more space and saying, "Hey, you're worthwhile."
maybe give him a little mom talk too if you see him out. What are you doing out? You should be home. I will bring you groceries.
Come on, Grandpa. Come on.
Oh man. Well, cool, man. I dig it. I'm looking forward to that conversation.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting too that we're having to, you know, we've had to pivot, but I kind of like the idea because it's not that you can't do social experiments and not see, you know, or we're showing that you can do these social experiments without having to actually see a person in person.
Yeah.
And I think it's just being able to roll with that. And honestly, too, the flexibility. Like, seriously, like commend yourself and commend all of those around you for being fairly flexible in their life, because, like, this is a lot of just news and a lot of weight that's been put on people. And I think, again, people have been handling it exceptionally well. I think people have been pretty graceful, all things considered.
I want to say, too, I think as it goes on, you know, if it gets worse, I think we are going to see a lot of beauty in it. You know,
yeah.
Because what I've seen so far is a lot of like political boundaries getting dropped.
Yeah,
you know,
yes.
In my personal life, you know, and the focus isn't on the election cycle, you know, but it's more about what's going on, you know, and it's like there's a humanitarian vibe in the air, you know, where it's like this is affecting us all. And something about that's rich. Yeah, I think as it goes along, if it gets worse, we're going to see more of that. But yeah,
I mean,
I'm
as messed
an
up as it
optimist
is,
masquerading as a pessimist. So.
I mean, hey, I got to tell you, my secret is I'm the same thing. I'm an optimist I'm a pessimist masquerading as an optimist. But I mean, it is cool that people, like you said, some of the political divides for people have been put down because it's this type of world event supersedes your just normal, irritabilities with someone who might think differently than you. Because really, when it boils down to it, we're all seeing that at the end of the day, we want to keep our families safe. We want to be able to still have food, and it would be nice if we could still work a little bit. And really, I mean, it's like, that's the other cool thing that I like is I think it's forcing people to simplify their lives more. And I'm all for that. I'm all for having less things in your life, and having more, like, less overall things. That way, the few things that you do have are more enriching to you, you know, and they're more specific to you. Instead of being like pulled 1,000 ways, you're pulled 20 ways, and all those 20 ways, you know, make you a better you, whatever that, or however that might be. So
I've been simplifying my life because I've been going through so much body wash. Like, I got like four tubes or four bottles of body wash in the shower, you know, that I just collect. And I don't use a whole lot of body wash, so they just kind of stack up. But now I'm like, man, like shower every time I walk in. I'm just like, wash off the virus. Like, if there's anything
wash
on
off
there.
The world.
So I'm just like, yeah, it feels great to see so few bottles in that shower stall. It's great simplification.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Let's see here. So I just want to dog where we're at. So this conversation remains relevant to the world where when it gets released. A few days ago, that $2 trillion stimulus package just got passed. So that's where we're at. And I feel like there's kind of an undulation that happened. Everything started hitting hard and everybody went a bit more humanitarian. And then it kind of came time to pass this bill. And then things went back to partisan just because of the rhetoric. But that's where we're at. I mean, there's kind of been a dip to people getting scared, and
it would be interesting.
And now it's
to be
back
honest
to the partisan a little bit. But I think it's maybe it's just gonna continue doing that. We'll watch.
Well, what I think would be cool is if
I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna say it's going to continue doing that because it's really uncertain where we're at right now. So of course, people are gonna dip into safety, right? Because when you're on a journey of growth, like you have to go back to safety. You can't just like grow, you gotta grow a little bit and then, okay, like that was scary. Let me go back to safety and then grow a little more and then go back to safety,
Yeah.
But sorry, I interrupted you. What were you saying?
No, man. No, I mean, it's going to be, there's that Chinese curse that they're, may you live in interesting times. And I think we live in some of the most interesting times. I mean, I'm a little biased, obviously, as someone who lives in this time period. But, I mean, one of the things that we may see is potentially actual revolution. Because, I mean, people at a certain point, like I was talking about how good people are, but when you take their necessities away, so you don't have a job, so then you lose your house and you can't eat your food, you become a lot more likely to engage in activities that others would deem harmful. And that could be to yourself, to the environment, to your community, whatever, but just harmful. And there's going to be more and more people like that. And, with people being as isolated as they are, some people don't have friends, and when we as human beings, we're so social that when we become isolated, we actually do go crazy because we require other humans to basically mirror to us how we are acting. So if I start acting crazy, you say, hey, Blake, you're acting crazy. But if I'm by myself, I have no reference point for how I'm acting. And so there's going to be an uptick in crazy people and people who are willing to be destructive. And especially when you see like the stimulus package, or they say the not stimulus package, and you see like just some of the places that the money's going to. And there's a lot of people who already feel the sentiment of eat the rich, and what you're potentially creating is an environment where they're saying, you know what, I don't have any other food. I'm literally going to eat. I don't mean that literally, but you know what, we're going to go for you now because I have nothing to lose. I've already lost everything. So I'm now coming for you, the person who did this to me. And it's the person who did this to me. I'm doing that in quotes because that literally is whoever that person deems to be a higher authority or in a position of power to take their thing away. So like, again, I guess I take back my all people being, or not all people, but most people being good. But when you put people in extreme circumstances, you see more extreme behaviors.
You're giving me anxiety, man. You're giving me anxiety.
I know. I probably just.
I don't think about.
Cut out that whole.
I don't
chunk.
think about
cut
that
out
stuff
that whole
because
chunk.
it gives me anxiety. Like,
bro,
if stuff happens, I'll get stressed about it for 2 days, and then I'll just roll with it. It'll be the new normal. So,
I'm always thinking like, because I work in behavior, but I'm also like just really fascinated with psychology. I'm trying to be a psychologist. So that's what I'm always thinking about, just people's mental states. And I've just seen that it doesn't require that much to push someone over the edge. And definitely with some of the things that are happening to people around the world and in the United States. I mean, there's enough reasons going around for some people, like, well, no, I'm not, again, if you want, you could cut this part out because this might make a lot of people anxious.
I'm already planning on it.
Yeah. But no, there was a guy who who they stopped from bombing like a shopping center or something because he just said he was angry. And you're like, at what? And he's like, at everything. And you're like, well, yeah, you just lost your job. You don't have money to pay your bills. And like, what else are you gonna do? You know?
Here's the thing, man.
There's
That's only scary because it's not the state of the world right now. You know what I mean? If a bunch of people do that, you know what I'm saying?
Then it becomes
We're gonna
normalized.
adapt.
Jesus.
We're gonna adapt, right?
Yeah,
so it's like
yeah.
that's why I'm not scared about, or that's why I don't think about it, because I know that I'll adapt, and that I don't need to think about what's coming, because if what comes will just become the new normal, and that will be life, and I'll move forward from that. But
you're definitely right about that for sure. We'll roll with it for sure.
So this has been a great conversation. I've enjoyed it, man. I'm going to close it out with a little benediction here.
All right.
So there's this book. It's called Bitten by a Camel. It's by Kent Dobson. And there's this line that I just love out of it. It's a quote more based around the spiritual life, but I'm going to adapt it a little bit to be more relevant to our current circumstances. So here we go. Calm down. What you're going through is normal. You're okay. Everything in life takes time and happens slowly. You're a good person, and you're lucky to have such diverse experiences.
Yeah. Wow. I've never thought about being lucky to experience diverse experiences, but actually, yes. That's a really good quote.
All right, man. That does it today. Looking forward to the next one. Well, there you have it. Like I said at the beginning, I think Blake and I are going to be doing a few more of these. Because, gosh, I really got a lot out of this, and I hope that you got something out of it too. And hey, if this inspires you to run some social experiments in your own interactions with people, please share those results and let us know what you did and how it went. Feel free to send us an email or leave a voicemail message. You can find the details for both of those in the episode notes. Well, I'll be right back here in 2 weeks' time. Stay safe out there, stay sane, and even more importantly, just stay curious. Stay curious.